Putin's unprecedented blow to the Russian economy, causing 1 million people to flee, could cost the country $40 billion. A prominent Russian economist told Express.co.uk that the country's state-owned enterprises, banks, and gas and oil industries are all suffering. A Ukrainian economist and advisor to President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Western sanctions are now causing unprecedented damage to the Russian economy, which is facing an eye-watering budget deficit of £40 billion. In response to data released by Rosstat, the Russian government's official statistics service, Vlad Vlasic noted that gas and oil companies were taking a beating. Furthermore, it is estimated that more than 1 million young people left Russia last year. He noted that Rosstat reported a 12.6% decline in commercial business profits in 2022 compared to the previous year, with energy giant Gazprom reporting a massive 72.6% decline and the earnings of Russian state-owned enterprises, SOEs, reducing by 52.6%. However, state-owned Russian railways benefited from the increased demand for freight transportation services as a result of sanctions and posted record profits of £2.3 billion, (226.2 billion rubles), in 2018. This was 2.3 times more than in 2021. Mr. Vlasic elaborated, saying, "Most businesses and investors pulled out of Russia immediately after its aggressive invasion of Ukraine, and many others are still leaving. Thus, in the initial rush to leave the country, there was a high demand for freight transportation services, and this was reflected in the increase in profits throughout the Russian railway sector. After the evacuations are finished and technological supplies dry up as a result of sanctions, the Russian railways will face significant difficulties. To make this happen, we must keep up our concerted effort to stop people from avoiding sanctions and tighten the sanctions regime even more." According to Rosstat's data, 2022 profits for Russian banks were down 90% from the previous year. Mr. Vlasic noted that the sanctions had made a significant impact on the Russian banking system. In Russia, the VTB Group, which includes the country's second-largest bank, VTB Bank, posted a loss of 614 billion rubles. Transaction costs for most Russian banks are greatly inflated because they must work with foreign partners like Iran. The Russian government has also made changes to the law that make it harder for banks to process transactions, especially for members of the armed forces. Mr. Vlasic emphasized the significance of thinking about the strategies Russian banks were employing to survive in the sanctions-imposed environment and maintain their profitability. The official stated, "If the objective is to weaken Russia's financial sector, and trigger spill-overs into the real economy, for example, via the credit channel, then additional sanctions on banks are needed." Mr. Vlasic predicted that Russia would feel the effects on the battlefield eventually, if the West maintained its resolve. He said, "While sanctions have had a significant impact, the Russian government is still able to supply its troops to continue its war of aggression in Ukraine. It is imperative that sanctions against the defense sector be strengthened and enforced with sufficient vigor."